F1 fans have been left angry after the Bahrain GP for all the right reasons. The primary thing that we're watching the sport for has been disturbed, and with lots of people having no idea about the live timing between the drivers or their position, as you can imagine, a lot of people have been voicing their concerns about the broadcast. But will the sport actually do something about this, since it's an ongoing issue from the first race in 2025? And if so, what measurements can be implemented? The fights from Bahrain's GP have all gone into the shadow after the problem that plagued the viewers, the broadcasting. At a certain point in the race, Russell was shown as the dead last while he was second and chasing Piastri, and it seemed like the broadcasters were unable to fix that issue at the time. The timetables were then turned off and we were fed information by the Sky F1 pundits Brundle and Croft, as they went on to say that the issue has gone to the extent of them not having the Brits' sector timings towards the end of the race. Comments on social media were asking for the person in charge of the F1 timing tower to be fired, because this is not the only time that we've seen broadcasting issues happen in 2025. Another fan has gone on to state that F1 is by far the worst broadcasting sport out of all the major events, because you can't just make the live timing disappear for half of the race multiple times in one season. And keep in mind, we are 4 races deep into 2025. To make the problem bigger, the broadcasting is paid for by the viewers, which is why fans have stated that they're basically paying to watch a sport in which they have no clue which position everyone is driving. At one point, the timetables were offered at the lower right angle, and the Sky F1 pundits went on to joke that they might need to go to the olden times and count the laps as well as the deficits of the drivers themselves. 2025 hasn't gone that well for the broadcasting service of the sport, and it's something that needs to be worked on heavily in the foreseeable future. We had some amazing fights in Bahrain that were unable to be followed by the redaction of F1, primarily because of the Russell issue. This has happened for the 4th time out of the 5 racing events, including the sprint race in China in 2025, so the fans have all of the right to be angry with what's going on in the sport. What is going to be done regarding this matter is still a big question mark though, but on the other hand, the sport does know that the anger is there and they should be looking for solutions sooner rather than later. Of course, nothing is guaranteed, and given the interest that F1 has drawn in the past couple of years, I'm sure that viable options are going to be presented to the sport in order to fix this very annoying and quite painful at times issue for the fans. On the other hand, the problems didn't end there. We saw a very bizarre issue with Russell's car that came from a technical nature. Throughout the race, Russell's DRS opened as he clicked on the radio button, in which he gained a very small advantage, but being aware that he could be penalised for what just happened, Russell lifted immediately and gave that advantage back. It's not that there was any threat to the race leader Piastri whatsoever, as the Aussie was 9 seconds ahead when this happened, but it's just not something that the drivers have to deal with throughout the race. At a certain point, Russell was warned that he could lose all of the technical data on the steering wheel, but he should continue to drive as he does, because he's doing an extraordinarily good job. But the DRS issue was quite strange, because it did alarm the other teams that they should only press the button when they're aware that they are within 1 second distance of the car ahead of them. This is kind of ridiculous, because the FIA is the body that controls these matters, so the driver can't open the DRS if he is not within touching distance of the car ahead. A brief moment happened with Leclerc as well, with the Monegasque driver seeing his rear flap being opened for a short second before it was closed down. Be that as it may, total chaos unravelled in Bahrain, but the most bizarre one was with Russell, as he had to explain what exactly happened with his car at that particular moment. When talking about the issue and how it all went down, Russell went on to say, "On the steering wheel, I was losing all my data. The brake pedal went into a failure mode, so I had to do all these resets. 1 minute the brakes were working properly, the next they weren't. So I was pretty pleased when I saw the checkered flag, to be honest. I don't really know how that happened. It was something to do with all these failures we were having. As soon as I saw the DRS open, I backed off. I lost 0.2 of a second. It never happened again throughout the race. I didn't actually click the DRS button. I clicked another button and it opened. As I said, I lost a lot more than I gained. I don't think I even gained anything because it was open for less than a second. This is a repeating error, just like the broadcasting issue, because in qualifying there has been a very bizarre situation with Nico Hulkenberg. The error that has been noted to too late caused Alex Albon to miss out on progressing in Q2, as the German driver was demoted back to P17 and he did progress in Q2 thanks to this illegal lap. It's just too many mistakes that are going on in the sport right now, and it's hurting the sporting nature of Formula One. So for the sake of the popularity, we do hope that it's going to be fixed sooner rather than later. Now, the big question that has been asked of Toto Wolff as well is whether or not the issue lies within the FOM. This is the body that registers the car once it passes the line, so it's yet to be determined whether the fault lies with Mercedes or the FOM. Elaborating further on this, Wolff has gone on to say, basically you have this beacon. When the car crosses the line, the FOM signal recognises the car, and for whatever reason it didn't do that anymore. So we are not 100% sure if it was a wiring loom issue on our car or whether it was Formula One. Now, combined with all of the broadcasting issues, you could suspect that something horrible has gone wrong, even though these two can barely be connected. But nevertheless, two incidents in such a short span are just too much to think of as a coincidence. And when talking about it to a greater extent, Wolff continued, there was a lot going on. I think this is the driver who won the race. The brake-by-wire system problem kept coming back, so you need to expect either electronic braking or hydraulic, which is a completely different braking point, and Russell managed that. For a sport as great as Formula One, you would expect the standards to be held very high, but again, these miscommunications and errors by all of the parties involved are just too much to digest. You could understand something that's being missed, like the Hulkenberg situation, but for a problem to persist throughout the entirety of the race, and more importantly for it to be present 4 times out of the 5 racing events we've had so far, it's just not acceptable. And even if we are to go back to the Hulkenberg issue during qualifying, we would note an extremely bizarre situation that eventually cost Williams a finish in the points, or even a Q3 appearance for Albon given his competitiveness. James Vowles has gone on to express how the qualifying blunder with Hulkenberg affected his team, and when talking about it to a greater extent, he said, first of all, it's frustrating because Q1 is ever so tight now. You can see cars do 3 runs, the cars that are slightly better do 2. That's where we were. We didn't get the best lap with Alex, but it was a top 10 car today. Some of the laps you can see from the FIA, they were very quick to respond to, Verstappen and Tsunoda, and typically their timeline should be seconds after it happens. The statement from the FIA said loud and clear that it's their fault that they took so long to respond to this breach of track limits from Hulkenberg, as their excuse was that the turn 11 breaches are considered extremely precise and they take a bit more attention compared to the rest of the track. In the official statement, the FIA wrote, checks in areas of the circuit such as turn 11 take a bit longer than those of a high priority. Unfortunately, in this case, due to the timing of the check, it was not possible to act before the start of Q2. As soon as we became aware of the incident, we acted on it. We are building towards increased resources and improved processes. On this occasion, we got it wrong. With all this in mind, what do you think about the blunders that put the Bahrain GP's show in a shadow? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, have a look at the video that's appearing on your screen right now.